Is gossip worth the cost? That's the topic that we're going to be addressing today on Flourish-Meant. I'm your host, Tina Yeager. And today I have the privilege, honor, and blessing of introducing to you a friend of mine that I've known for many years. This is Donna Mumma, everyone. She is a former school teacher. She's also an award-winning author of both fiction and nonfiction. She can blend story, mystery, and a touch of faith in her stories. Welcome, Donna, to the show today. I'm so glad that we had a chance to have an episode where we can have a conversation together.
Thank you so much. It's fun to be here.
I would like to launch into a conversation about some solutions for preventing gossip and discussing how we can help our children heal if they're victims of gossip, or even help ourselves heal. So, first of all, how will we as believers and as Christians stand against gossip and start to end this tide that's a trend in, as you said, human nature in the first half of our conversation? How can we be people who are resisting against that normal tendency?
Tendency. I think the first thing we need to do is we need to put it away. I once heard a pastor say, when gossip comes your way, you need to just put it away. You need to resist listening. You need to resist participating. And often it's hard because sometimes gossip comes to us disguised as concern for someone else. Did you hear what happened to so and so? I want to tell you so you can pray for them. And that can be very tricky because sometimes you get more details, I think, than you really needed. And it can go into some kind of tricky territory. So I think sometimes you need to go, if someone is coming, and even if they may sound like they're coming with the best of intentions, and I think often we do and don't realize we're slipping into that more personal thing, that just kind of put it away and think, okay, I think I got it. If someone is getting into that ground where you're feeling uncomfortable, you might just say, okay, let's just stop there. I've got enough to pray about right now. I really don't want to know all their tricky personal business, because I personally know I wouldn't want someone sharing that much about me. Even if someone knew, I would just rather say, hey, they're going through a tough time. Let's just pray for them. Let's think about that. And if you do hear something coming at you that is gossipy, just stop and say, I don't think we should be saying that. And not try to, and it's very hard because you don't want to come across like you're trying to be like a nanny kind of personality, but just keep in mind that these are real people with real hearts, and often they might be broken or they might be easily broken. And would you really want someone talking about you as you are talking about them? And kind of keep that in mind. And then I think another thing that we can do is be kind, be tenderhearted, be forgiving. If someone did wrong you and you really, because oftentimes we want retribution. We want to be made right. And often being made right sometimes feels like, well, I'll go vent to someone else. And in the midst of that venting, we can go off the rails and say far more than we should. So often just practice forgiveness. If someone has wronged you, resist, which is very difficult, the urge to go complain to someone else about it, and just be forgiving and understand. And also, when you hear something negative about someone, don't repeat it. Oftentimes, I know when I was still working, people would come and complain about the boss, because being a boss is tough and being an employee is tough, and you're going to have clashes. And often someone would come and go, I just got out from talking to the boss. This is what they said. And that conversation between that employee and boss was meant to be private. And with you sharing that conversation, you're kind of violating something there as well. So as the person who is listening, you could just say, hey, that's between you two. I'll just, I'm sorry it went bad. Let's try to go find something else to get your mind off of it. Just try to avoid those situations and drive them in a different direction. And then last, just remember to be loving. Love covers all strife, like in Proverbs 10:12. And just sometimes remember that that language isn't loving. Is what I'm saying loving about this person, or is there a little bit of something else in there that really we shouldn't be repeating?
So, if our kids or if we are wounded by gossip, there is a lot of cyberbullying going on. There's a lot of bullying, even of adults online. How can we heal from that and move forward?
That is a very difficult but such a relevant thing. Every day you can find very sad, very heartbreaking headlines where someone was bullied, a child or an adult. And it is very, I think, a very difficult thing to overcome because you being hurt that way, especially as our young people, because their number one thing is they want to feel like they fit in, they want to feel like they belong, and they want to feel like they're good enough because the teenage years are hard enough without someone picking on you and making you feel like you're just a complete outcast. And I think sometimes it's just talking to them and saying, "Hey, I'm sorry this happened to you. Tell me what's going on." I know oftentimes trying to talk to the school and all of that is your next step, and that often does not help the situation because the school can't always control what's going on outside on social media. I think allowing your kids to go talk to a counselor and helping them kind of teach them those good strategies for processing those feelings that come from that, and maybe strategies for standing up to the bully. Because I know oftentimes kids don't think their parents have all the ideas. You give them advice and it's just my mom. But having them talk to someone else about it and having that person say, well, hey, I was bullied once. Why don't, I did this. Maybe you could try that. Trying to get them involved in a group where they are supported, helping them find their place. That was one thing when our kids were in high school. We got them very involved in music because band is a big group of kids. There are a lot of different opportunities to be in a different band, a different group. They spend a lot of time together, and for the band to work, you have to be unified. So it's a group that thrives on unity, thrives on that. I know sports a lot of times can be one or they can go both ways, but you try to get them involved in something in church, finding a group that helps them. Although I know there are kids who have struggled with bullying in a youth group. And that's, how do you, and that's, I think, would be in a very difficult situation because this is church. This is supposed to be the place that's open arms. But yet, church is filled with just as many broken sinners as everywhere else. And so I think you're just finding people that will help them process it and just talking to them, getting them to talk, not if not to you, to someone that they trust so they feel like they're not alone. Because I think that may be the hardest thing with being the target of that is you feel alone. You're not good enough. I'm alone. I don't have anywhere to go. And that feeling can then snowball into so many other very negative, devastating places.
Donna, what is one final thing that you would like the audience to hear about whether gossip is worth the cost?
I would like people to do what I once heard in a sermon, and the pastor called it hush. And he said that we need to hold ourselves accountable for what we hear. We allow ourselves to hear what we allow ourselves to say, for what we allow others around us to say, and to keep the verse, speak no evil against anyone, in mind at all times. That there are times when you need to tell the truth about someone who is doing something that is wrong, but there are ways to do that that are not so negative. And secondly, you need to understand that no one is perfect. Everyone is going to make a mistake. Everyone in the world is going to do something that may harm you, and you don't necessarily have to try to get back at them for that. You need to be understanding and forgiving that we're all sinners. We all make mistakes. Thirdly, you need to seek to learn about the person that you are gossiping about, because it's oftentimes pretty hard to gossip about someone that you really care about, that you really value. So if you see this person as having a value or having a good spot in your life, an important spot in your life, then you don't really want to talk negatively about them. You want to build them up. So try to seek out to see these people as real people and not necessarily as the gossip that you're hearing. See beyond that, which is very hard in today's society, especially. You hear things on television about a certain individual and you start to believe, oh, that must be who they are, when they might not be anything like that. They're just being framed that way because of someone else's agenda. And then the last one is hold back from believing all the negativity. It kind of goes along with that. Seek to know someone else so that you see them as Christ sees them and not as we as sinners can see them through our own biases, our own prejudice, whatever we're bringing to the table. We see them beyond that and see them as Christ sees them and see their value.
Donna, this has been such a great conversation. How can people stay connected with you to learn more of the wonderful things that you offer as a speaker, as an author of many different books? How can they get a copy of any of your books, including the most recent one?
My recent one is called The Women of Winton's. It just came out in July. And you can find it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Christian book distributors, all the main places that you buy books. And they can find me on Instagram or Facebook. Those are the two places I hang out the most. I also have a website, www.donnamumma.me. And you can sign up there also for my newsletter that goes out once a year.
I hope that all of you listening have been informed and motivated to eliminate gossip and find ways to heal if you've been the target of it. And of course, I also hope that you will hit subscribe and come back for the next episode of Flourishment.